Look, you know trust is critical to the sale, so let me help you with earning and securing full trust from your buyer. In this segment, you're going to discover exactly how to get trust and keep it. And in doing so, you will increase your effectiveness as a salesperson. Because of a handful of unethical salespeople who have misrepresented the benefits of their products, customers trick people and sometimes destroyed trust. If you've ever had the experience, TV, news, broadcast, papers, constantly running stories of scams, rip-off artists, con artists, and making customers skeptical of you, the salesperson. Even the most honest of salespeople are not trusted because of past experiences. This skepticism keeps people on guard and prevents you from correctly establishing trust that is critical to getting a decision. By the way, this has nothing to do with whether you're trustworthy or not. Sometimes you're just not trusted because of past experiences. Maybe even in selling your product and showing the features and benefits, the customer's thinking the whole time, I can't trust this person, which means they would not receive the presentation, seeing the features and benefits. Regardless of the cause of trust, it doesn't matter where it came from. What matters most is that you're aware of it, how to handle this situation, how to build trust, and that there is a possible lack of trust in your presentation. Distrust in a sales cycle is not the buyer's problem. It's your problem. Okay? Distrust is not the buyer's problem. It's your problem. If the buyer doesn't trust you or your company or what you're saying, your presentation, the information involved in it, no matter how trusted, how validated, how true, will not be trusted. And you'll be offering, whatever you'll be offering will be minimized, challenged, shopped, maybe even thrown in the trash until later. And the person's like, hey, you're the second or third person that said this, right? Once they've had to shop. See, the buyer, your buyer, will make a decision based on, does it solve my problems? Can I afford this? But based on whether or not they trusted you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to hear anything. When they leave, the experience they had with you and don't do something, by the way, that is a decision. Remember this. When somebody leaves and doesn't buy, that was a decision. Customers like, I got to think about this. That's a decision. I need to think about this for a while. That's a decision. I'm not buying today. Is a decision to not buy today. It's just not the decision you wanted. And that decision was tainted by trust. When the buyer decides to think about it, to put it off, that I don't ever make rash decisions. I need to check with another person. That, again, is a decision. It's just not the one you wanted. The decision to shop is always the cause of some level of distrust. You hear what I said? Shopping, thinking, putting it off, stalls are always the cause of a lack of trust. If your buyer had full, complete, 100% trust and confidence in you, your product, your terms, the company, they would do it, and they would do it now. Salesperson always gets a decision. Listen to me on this. Stable. You have to have stable beliefs. The salesperson will always get a decision from the customer. When they decide to think about it, sleep on it, put it off, that is a decision. They agree to keep the product they have and not trade to a new product, that is a decision. They decided it was better for them to do X rather than do Y, which is what you wanted them to do. That is a decision. They decided to present it to the board, to the accountant, to the CEO, to their tax advisor, to their spouse. That was a decision. They decided to go buy from the competition. Oops, wrong decision. And it cost you. Why? Because of trust. Distrust, lack of trust, not enough trust. Something they didn't trust, something you said you didn't validate, they didn't believe. By the way, maybe they didn't trust themselves. Each of the decisions aren't favorable to you, and each were caused by lack of trust of self, of you, of the product, something you said, the presentation. Look, when the buyer doesn't trust you or something about the presentation or themselves, they're not going to buy it. They're going to add time to the cycle unnecessarily in most cases, not making a decision to purchase and or putting it off. Even if you manage to close the deal, the unhandled element of distrust will always generate a future problem even after delivery and payment. When a salesperson understands what is going on in the mind of the buyer, the distrust or lack of trust, you'll step into an area that only professionals know how to delve in. That is beyond selling now. I'm into the psychological of the customer, understanding someone so well that I can sense, perceive distrust. This is beyond what people say and communicate. This is you picking up on the other indicators, really being aware and observing the customer. Look, you know when people don't trust you. You can feel it if you're open to feeling it. The unspoken thoughts of the customer have energy. They're phenomenal. I can almost see them. Almost this infinite playing field that you start playing in where you can start observing what people don't say, how they change, how they get stiff. Where you're really aware, you're looking at people. You're not looking at what they say now, you're looking at trust levels, consistencies and inconsistencies. You're looking at what's going on around the scene, behind the scenes, in front of the customer, not just what they say. When a salesperson's willing to go there, to a place of massive increased responsibility, to a place to where you are almost like an artist, seeing things that other people can't see yet. See, all my studies in sales over the past 25, 30 years have involved really looking at not just the customer, but everything around it and saying, I'm going to control everything in this environment. Not just the money, not just the product, not just the presentation, not just the feature, the benefit, all the stuff that we hear salespeople talk about all the time. I'm talking about everything in the environment. Down to the unspoken, but the thought. I do audiences. I've done a 35,000 person audience. I literally can feel when people are disagreeing with my presentation and I'm a stadium away. Might seem impossible to you, but when you increase responsibility in communication, you can start sensing what people are thinking, whether they trust you or not. So I want to get into this right now. Number one, trust is critical. You know that. I don't need to tell you. I know you know that. Trust is critical. You need to hear this over and over, though. Trust is everything in a cycle. Number two, if you don't get the sale, something was not trusted. This is very, very important for you to know because you could actually go back and ask about this later. This is what people are a little bit, you're too flexible on. If you don't get the sale, you're going to know what? Oh, I wasn't trusted completely. Something I said wasn't trusted. Something I showed them wasn't trusted. Something's not trusted, including they didn't trust themselves. Number three, every decision is a decision. You've got to build trust to get a decision that you want. We're going to do that later in later segments, but right now I want you to know this. No decision means a decision. You understand? No decision is a decision, and you got to understand that when they don't make a decision you like, it's because some trust went down, either in you, what you showed them, or in themselves. Remember that. All decisions are based on whether they trusted themselves, you, or the company. By the way, you could always ask.